marriage, shadi, thirumanam kalyanam. Marriage, shadi, thirumanam kalyanam. Marriage, shadi, thirumanam kalyanam. Marriage, shadi, thirumanam kalyanam.
Alright, welcome back to the podcast on marriage by Streams of Water. And if you have not liked and subscribed, I think you should do it, right?
Sure. Oh my gosh.
Give us some likes.
Are we one of those channels?
No, we are coming with good content, no?
Yeah, sure.
We're coming with good content. What are you telling? Anyways.
Sure.
So we talked about marriage and preparing for marriage, and we talked about one of the most important non-negotiable is that person has to be a believer, and also ways how you can figure out that person is a believer. And we'll talk more about that. But can you tell me what is common among the four guys here?
The four guys where?
Here.
Beard.
There's only four guys here.
Beard.
My goodness. Not bad. Beard, yeah. It's interesting, right? If it was maybe 30 years back, if we did a like this, it would have been all shaved, clean shaved.
It's just a mustache.
Mustache. Correct.
I see, you guys are not thinking all these worldly things. You're all brothers in Christ. That was a common thing I was thinking. What is this?
Okay, let me ask, what's going to be 30 years from now, what will be the trend?
Let's not go into
It's a good thing to see 30 years later, you know? What do you think it'll be?
I'm thinking beard ponytails.
Ponytails. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we need to talk about political aspects. Maybe what is about the face? Maybe I think the clean shave style might come back.
Maybe, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
French.
French beard might come.
No, actually, I think the clean shave look is kind of
Very
coming
good.
back.
Yeah. I'm considering that.
You are. Huh?
You are? Yeah, even I was thinking the same
It's
thing.
high maintenance. This beard is high maintenance.
I'm not doing it.
Alright. So we're going back to the non-negotiables, and we want to consider if there's any other non-negotiables. Okay. Any other questions?
Probably, yeah. I wanted to ask. So the last time you pointed that you can maybe ask the person you're considering as a spouse about the sins that they're dealing with. Do you think it would be a right move to, in the initial conversations, ask about the sins that they're dealing with, because there might be some awkwardness.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's I think that might not be the first meeting talk.
Okay, so there's first meeting talk and there's second meeting talk.
I think
What if there's only one meeting?
Okay, then.
I mean, then there's chatting.
yeah.
First
If
meeting
you
and then
get the
chatting.
number.
Huh?
If you get the number.
Like I think what in that kind of a situation, the best thing is if you know that this is the person you're going to get married to, and then like having intentional talks, this can be one of the topics that come up, right?
Yeah.
How are you dealing with, or like, are you getting any help? You don't like especially in an arranged marriage system where you might have multiple proposals coming. You're not going to get like the person you're going to say yes to, or do you think this is the person? When you have intentional conversations with that person, these kind of topics can come up. You cannot ask
Everyone,
all the 10 people who's coming and like, what are the sins that you're dealing?
Yeah, that's what she's saying. She asked it later, she's saying.
If I know I'm getting
Is
married
it too
to him,
soon before marriage, or is it better that you ask something like this after marriage?
Yeah,
and work
after
on
you
it?
locked the person in and they can't get out. Very good move, Sam. Very good. Smart fellow. This
So,
fellow.
this is what I see it, okay? Personalities are different. Right? You have to consider the people who they are, right? And some people are open to sharing. You know what? I struggle with this, right? And the Lord is working on me, right? And some people like, oh gosh, like maybe after 10 years also they will not tell you, right?
Yeah.
So I would say if you're comfortable in sharing, you share. But I like to share. Like this is one of the Lord is teaching me not to be judgmental, right? So it depends on what you're struggling with. If it is something that's very core of your being and that's a taboo, then you will obviously not say in the beginning. But if it's something like, okay, I'm struggling with lying, right? And now the Lord is teaching me to, be careful with my. So it depends,
Yeah,
So
and I think Sam, if you're feeling uncomfortable to ask them, you can share. Like how Godly said, you can say, I think this is something that I would want. My potential.
But at the same time, I shouldn't expect that they.
Yeah, you don't have to expect. But if they feel awkward, they feel awkward about it. But it may help them also to open up, knowing that you've opened up. So.
Yeah. But talking about sin, sometimes that's also a pointer of how they are like growing in the Lord, right? Because none of us are perfect. Like sanctification is continuous till glorification, right? So I think that's something that shows. I feel sometimes it just shows the genuineness of a person in their faith, and I think that's often very important. But yeah, you don't have to bring it up in the beginning. Yeah, depending on the situation. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. What are some other non-negotiables? You, as a couple, you had any other non-negotiables?
Yeah, for me, it was God shaping my calling. When I started praying, I wanted to be a businessman, and I would have considered a person who had similar interest. But when I was 22, God called me for full-time ministry.
Okay.
And when that calling was sure, I wanted someone who supports me in that calling, and that became a non-negotiable. And then God brought Joy into my life, who had a similar calling. She
Literally joy.
Yeah.
He was waiting to tell us.
I was like on the edge of my seat.
By the way, we have coffee here. You can take it. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think similar to what he said, I mean, for me, there were proposals that were coming. So before, same thing, I also came into full-time ministry before we got married. But before that, I was working in an IT company. So at that time when proposals were coming, I knew I knew the Lord was leading me towards full-time work. And so I remember telling at least, one of the proposals, like, I'd like to see if they would be willing to consider, knowing that I'm, going to quit my job, knowing that I'm going to full-time ministry. So, and I think it didn't proceed after that. So, so for me also, that was like, if the Lord is wanting me to be in full-time, especially as a woman, it was like, I want my husband to be in full-time ministry, serving the Lord, so that I can serve along with him. So.
But there can be other non-negotiables, right? Like we talked about Genesis chapter 24, right? And I think for Abraham, it was a non-negotiable that don't take my son there, and I don't want a girl from here, right?
Very interesting, actually. I was wondering why he didn't do that.
Yeah. So I think he's also keeping to the promise of Genesis chapter 12. He said, I'm going to give you a promise of this land, and I'm going to want to stay here, right? And I want to bless. So he's trying to keep up to the promise that God gave him, right? So sometimes, like, there can be an individual promise or a calling, for us as individuals, and I think we should keep to that. And that could be, varying for people to people. Any other non-negotiable that you guys can think of? I know it's you're not in that place, but
very experienced.
The person must be trustworthy. I think that is one aspect that we need to. If he's a phony, don't ever do that. Like, marry a person who you can feel secure.
Trust
also.
And I think we also talk about commitment, right? Before a person who is committed. Like, I think this is a very important question to ask, because our older generation, they stuck to the commitment. No matter what. I think that day you were saying some proverb in Tamil, right? What was that?
Kallanalum kanavan, pullanalum purushan.
What does that mean?
Even if it is a stone, he is my husband, so I will stay with it. Even if he's like a grass, I'll still, because he's my husband, I will stick with him.
Wow,
So-
that's great.
So that level of commitment, no matter what happens, I'm going to stick to this marriage. And that commitment level, I feel at some level is reducing today. So now to talk about it, right? I've realized in doing premarital, and we do some tests from Prepare and Enrich, and the couples who are high committed are the ones that thrive, I shouldn't say thrive, but they are the ones who will stick to the marriage most. That commitment level is high. Any other non-negotiables you can think of? I was remembering one youngster I was talking to, and he was the only breadwinner of the house, and he was almost like from a single parent home, and he had other two siblings who were not very supportive. So the responsibility of taking care of the home was on him. And so he had this non-negotiable that, in fact, he was dating someone who was not very happy with him supporting his family. And I said, really, that's what you want to pursue? And he said, no, Anna, Adil, like, I don't want to pursue that. So I said, then you need to, whenever you meet a girl next time, and talk to her, whether it be you find her or it comes, a proposal comes, this is one of the first things you have to talk about. This is one of my priorities, and I can't detach. Maybe you can stay, maybe up, they can stay up and you can stay down. You can stay in different houses also, but still my commitment is to support them, right? Because he had, and I know a couple of them were like that. Like another girl, I remember she said, I want someone who want to keep an open home.
Oh yeah, that's a
Right.
good thing. Actually.
Yeah.
That's something even I think about, because I think when I was growing up, not a completely open home, but we have guests quite regularly.
Yeah.
And so, growing up in that, I actually kind of enjoyed it. And something I think I pray for is that the person I eventually marry will be open to that.
Yeah.
Because that's something I want to continue. I think that has helped me also personally, because I get to meet different people, and that has personally enriched my spiritual life also. So that is something that even I think about.
When you talk about that, Becky, you remember you were from a home that was open, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't want your house to be open. Or
No, that's not how it was.
What?
I never wanted. No, I
Wait,
didn't. My
you
prayer,
invited us to Pune.
he's got the context wrong.
Yeah.
I come from a home which is always open, and my parents are serving the Lord. So always my prayer was, Lord, don't call me into ministry, right? And I was literally running away from that call till he caught me like 2 or 3 times. He's like, stop. This is your calling. And for me to then sit and process that, it took a while to understand, like, okay, this is what God is calling me. Just surrender, like, just submit unto Him and everything will fall into place. And what I expected out of marriage was not what I received, but what I received was like way beyond what I imagined my life would be, right? And so it's like much blessed, open home, kids coming home, lot of conversations.
Yeah, we were just kidding. By the way, very open home. We've gone to Pune.
Please come.
How many
home.
youth? Like you go on a weekend, you see like the number of people who are there at that in their home at that time. Crazy fun, actually.
This is before marriage.
Yeah, before marriage.
Before thinking about ministry life is what I was.
Godly, but I wanted to ask something. In the situations that you just brought up, these non-negotiables are mostly based on the circumstances, right?
Yeah.
So is it all right for someone to shape their non-negotiables based on circumstances and
like
fix it on-
preferences, you mean, right? Like their own
No,
preferences?
in the situation that he brought up earlier, it was because of his circumstance that that non-negotiable was there.
Okay.
It is very personal.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily
common.
it's a common thing.
Right. So it is like a preference, kind of,
It's
right?
kind of a preference, and not
But
just
it-
because,
but it becomes a non-negotiable. Like someone we know, I mean, the guy does not. His father passed away, and mother has a mental illness. So, he needs someone. The mother has to be with him.
Yeah.
So when he had proposals also, he wanted a girl who would be willing to, willing to take care of his mother also. So and finally he found a girl who was, even though she was highly qualified and all that, she was willing to say, no, I want to be at home, take care of your mom also. And they're married and the mother's with them wherever they go. Even if they move places, the mother's with them and the wife is willing. So that was a non-negotiable for him.
Yeah.
And so I think it's, like he said, it's very personal. So a preference can become non-negotiable based on the circumstance.
Yeah.
But to keep the non-negotiables small, I would say, would be better, right? And if you take all your preferences and put it under non-negotiables, then
So
what?
getting married.
Pointers.
So
I think the common non-negotiable for everyone is like that, what we talked about first, right?
Yeah.
It should be
Yeah.
someone who is in Christ. And then the rest is more
Secondary. you
Yeah.
say.
There is this one thing that we didn't talk about. I think there was just 2 questions that were asked about to me about the believer non-negotiable, right? And this question was like this, right? What if I fall in love with a non-believer? Right? Or
Right,
what if I
situation.
have faith that I will marry a non-believer in the hope that that person will come to know the Lord through my
Very
seeking.
true missionary.
That was
Specific calling.
okay.
So
Yeah, we should
when-
clarify that that's not actually what he meant.
what happens like when someone comes with that? How do we? What do you say? Like, what if that happens to you guys, right? Like, you guys are not married, right? And you like someone who's a
Will you
non-believer.
ever fall in love with an unbeliever?
I don't think I will actually,
Why?
because I think when our values are different itself, because the way my life is going right now, it is centered around the church, the activities of the assembly, to be involved. So that's a big chunk of my life, and if they are not with me in that big chunk, then it will not matter at all. Then what's the point of the marriage?
But his question was, will you fall in love with an?
No, I will not. I clearly no.
You won't.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll not, it's not wise, to be very honest.
Okay.
To do that.
But my answer will be yes,
Why? Because you want to.
because love is blind, right?
Okay.
You won't
When you
see
see
all
someone, when you like someone,
Yeah.
It's
You're
happened to
not
me.
thinking, right?
yeah,
Yeah, if you would have asked the same question to me, unless I depend on the Lord
Yeah.
completely,
yeah,
if you're going forward by your own strength, right, you can definitely fall.
yeah.
And
that's true.
that's something. I mean, just like you said, love is blind. You don't think too much when you're so deeply in
Yeah.
love with the person.
Yeah.
Right.
You go with emotions, right? Yeah. We did a podcast on
Series
emotions.
of
Hey, like, subscribe.
My gosh.
Yeah, but it is such a phase where
Yeah.
you're so deeply in that thought
Yeah.
that you feel like, okay, maybe I can marry the person.
Yeah.
And then
Actually, you know what? I'd like to add to that, because we are saying, no, it is. I'm sure we all agree that it is not wise to marry an unbeliever.
Yes.
It is not going to work out. But I have heard of instances where it has happened. In the sense, the believer marries an unbeliever, and after years, eventually the family comes to the Lord, and they come to the church. So, like, what do you do when there's something like that?
When you're forced into it.
No, they no.
They fall in love?
Yeah, they fell in love.
Yeah.
So what do you do in that kind of a situation? Like, if someone sees that and says, okay, hey, you know what, it worked out there, so why can't I do it here?
Yeah.
What will someone?
Yeah, even like as you said, no, like years later they came to know the Lord. Praise God for them that that happened. But I'm thinking of the years that they missed out on. I mean, 10 years and 3 kids later. Even if at 10th year, if my husband had become a believer, I'm thinking of all these 10 years where how would I have fulfilled God's purpose for my life? That I would have had this constant struggle. What about my kids? Now we both are together raising them in the ways of the Lord, and we are both involved with just our idea of parenting, or what is our involvement in the church, or who do we have over, what are our conversations centered around. I think a lot of that I would have missed out on if he was an unbeliever.
And those don't become norms.
Yeah, those are exceptions.
Exceptions.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think the Bible
That
also
we should
mentions
clarify.
about that. I mean, if you happen to be married to an unbeliever, then that there's this verse that says you can win over your husband by your good conduct. The wife can win over. 1 Peter
3:1.
3:1. Yeah, so it says that. But then we can't quote that to make that as a norm.
Yeah.
Say,
Yeah.
I can win him over by my good conduct. So that is
Yeah.
for an instance where it's already happened, and but then the wise thing to do would be, if you have a choice. And to your question, if you're in love with somebody who is an unbeliever, I think you're not married yet, so it is wise to try to talk about if you're really serious about your faith.
Yeah.
That's another thing when you were talking about when we're looking at what if the other person is not walking with the Lord, I think those who are watching also, if you are looking for a life partner, if you are walking with the Lord, I think the Lord will shape your desire. You will not, I think, blindly fall in love with, because like you said, your life will, you cannot have a conversation without talking about your faith, and I think that will help you make that decision also.
Yeah, I think it does boil down to the fact that how serious you're taking your faith when you make such a decision. Because if you're taking it seriously, then this decision also will like come under that.
Yeah.
Because
And in this process, you're losing a person that you can probably share your spiritual struggles with, right?
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
That is also
that's a
very
big.
Yeah, I just like to bring up the point where Benji talked about that couple who got married, who was non-believer. Let's not make that the norm, right? It's almost like a gamble,
Yeah.
and
Very
you
big gamble.
don't want to do that, because I know many other couples who has gone like that and that stretch, and they don't have a very fruitful marriage. They might be having a marriage, but not a very Christ-centered marriage, or people have then moved to other faiths.
Oh, yeah.
I know a lot of couples that has happened where they've moved to the other faith, right? Or the children are now not growing in a good home.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of other things to consider when we talk about things. So you don't want to gamble with it. Like so, and if like you said, if you are in a relationship or you fall in love, because love is blind, right? And sometimes in that age you will fall in love, but then you have to come to reality. Like that happened to me. I proposed to one girl in my college. I remember. I don't think you know or not.
Secrets.
coming out.
We are spilling secrets, guys.
So and then I in fact proposed to her, and she was not in the faith for sure, and I knew my where my boundary is supposed to be. And then I remember coming back to my friend's place, and they're like, "Oh, where you went?" I went here, and I proposed this girl. And they're like, "Godly, are you sure this will happen?" And then I was like, "Who am I fooling? Like, am I fooling myself?" Right? And that's the second question, right? This person will become a believer, as who are you? The bigger question is, who are you fooling? Are you trying to find a way out?
Yeah.
Right? Let's not fool ourselves, right? I think we know the reality, So if your priority is really Christ, you'll stick to Christ, right? Your priority is every time Christ, and you'll stick to Christ. So
Yeah, I think recently we had a premarital event which happened, and there also I think we heard that marriage is not for evangelizing. The purpose of marriage is not that you evangelize your spouse, but that you show Christ. So
What if they are in a relationship? What should they?
Already.
What should they? Because it's been few years.
yeah,
Serious
it's hard to
relationship.
break away, right?
So what
There's
should?
emotion.
Yeah, what should they be doing?
yeah, I've had some couples like that, and some guys or girls who are in relationships like that, and it was very difficult. Continued to pursue them to get out of it, and continued, debated, had logical arguments, had scriptural arguments, and then I think most of them slowly realized and slowly plugged away, and it was very difficult. Like this recently, when I was in Bombay, also we had a conversation. I had a conversation with one of the girls, and she wanted to get out of the relationship, but she was not able to. And when I was talking to her, I realized that she's the one who's stopping from not getting out of the relationship. She knows. So I said, "Aren't you the problem actually?" And we talked to her. She's like, "Yeah, I am the problem," right? And it's difficult. It's not easy, right? And I think it's just continuous pursuing, and I think people need help with that, right? And if you are in that kind of a relationship, and if it's a non-believer and it's difficult to plug out, right? I think seek help, right? You don't have to fight it on your own. There are people who can help you come out of the relationship. Yeah,
That's why I think mentors are very essential.
important.
I
very
think
important. My gosh.
it's I think for entirety of this premarital phase, if there is a mentor who can walk along, where you will be able to share, and they will be
Even
able
after marriage, you need mentors.
Yeah,
That's true. Very true.
And that's one thing I think we should, when you write this negotiable, non-negotiables, I encourage a lot of youngsters, you write this negotiable, non-negotiable, and you take it to your mentor, right? And have a conversation with them. What do you think about this? What do you think? Because it's very interesting. Sometimes you will put something in your non-negotiable, and the mentor will say like, "Are you serious that you want to have this non-negotiable?" Like recently, I had a guy who gave me a non-negotiable. I was like, we were like, "Are you serious? Like this is the non-negotiable you have?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then so we had to kind of debate and we had to talk about it. And then he's like, "Yeah, that's true. Like that might not be possible." And so then he had to move from non-negotiable to negotiable.
It can be a preference. But
Yeah, it
I
can be a
remember
preference, yeah.
recently we had some girls over and late night conversations about marriage, and one of the things she said was, I think her thing was, the person I marry, I don't want to be living with my in-laws. That's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
I say, I don't want to.
Strong feelings there.
But then the conversation but then the fact that she shared it with the others were like, but what if, maybe right now they could be, self-sustained and all that. But what if, or what if your husband, goes through an ailment or, becomes sick or, not able to, and you have to move in. What if your situation changes that you have to move in with your in-laws? So, and then as we spoke about that, and it was like, I don't think it's a non-negotiable. I'd love for us to be a family by ourselves first. Then, so that's.
I think definitely mentors will put some sense into
The processing often
the talking
helps.
about it helps.
Talking about it helps, Okay, just so let's talk about some negotiables, right? So let's just throw out words, okay? Whatever you can think of, negotiables, people think of, right?
Sam, go.
Negotiables, okay?
No, don't put me on the spot.
The Sam
Yes, coach.
Not the Sam coach. You'll be specific to the Sam.
Negotiables. Oh my god.
Okay, let's not put pressure on it. Let's just
Wait, I would like someone who likes music.
okay, sound like music.
Oh
Okay,
yeah, that's a good one.
particularly any
Wheatish color. Oh wow. Okay, all right.
wow.
One of mine was enjoy traveling, and he
traveling.
loves traveling.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
should play an instrument.
Should play an
Yes.
instrument. Okay.
Should be tall.
Should be tall.
That
Okay.
was also. You're telling my list.
Did you copy my?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay.
Same college, no, you guys.
Yes,
Very
yes.
good.
For me, integrity was huge. Right, a person who is.
Is that a negotiable for you?
It was a non-negotiable, I should say. But these things, like love, being humble, all those kind of things, right? I shouldn't say it's not. It's kind of a non-negotiable, but these are things that we can work on
Work
also,
on,
right?
yeah.
And I kind of thought of these things, and I think that's something that we don't think about. Like we talk about other things, like okay, degree, work, similar likes. Right?
Likes and dislikes.
Likes and dislikes, yeah. So
I wanted many children.
you need many children, okay? And you got many.
Working on that.
Okay. All right. Next podcast.
Parenting.
Yeah, parenting.
My gosh. I don't
Something
think
that
we'll be
I-
sitting there. Huh?
Something that I prayed for as I was growing up was to have someone who is spiritually strong, because we never know like when our tables can change. Like there might be a day when I might not be in a place where I need the encouragement, and so that was something I prayed for.
Yeah.
And I wanted someone who would spiritually lead the family.
yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think these are some non-negotiables.
It's yeah.
Tell me that.
Yeah, I think women should look for someone who can lead.
Yeah.
I think that's a
and also the other way around, I was thinking of this verse in Ephesians chapter 5 where it says, wives, submit your husbands as unto the Lord. We always look at the wife, submit to the husband's part alone, as unto the Lord. So wife who is submitting to the submitting to the Lord will be, that also I think will be a non-negotiable.
It's interesting, this Genesis chapter 24. I keep going back to that. And it's very interesting. It says that now the young man was woman was very beautiful to behold, right? So that it's okay to have that as your, you want to have your beautiful wife, right? And I mean, beauty is
not the most
In the
important.
eyes of the beholder.
the eyes of the beholder, right? So it's good to, like, I often tell people that spark should be there, right? You should like when recently we had this marriage that we just finished. That guy was like
Head over heels. He knows who he is. He's probably watching this right now.
like he liked that girl for sure. Each conversation I had.
You just her name, you could see the glow on his face.
Yeah.
So on his face, I was hearing it for like 2 months. So what?
So it's interesting that you should consider that also, right? Like you should like the person because you're going to stay with that person for the rest of your life, and the spark should be there, right? So that's one. There's another one. It says she was a virgin, right? Today virginity, God only knows. But at least some sense of living towards a pure life, right? Towards holiness and those kind of things. She was she filled the pitchers of the servant, right? And she said, "I'll feed the camels also." Just imagine watering the camels, she's a huge worker. She was ready to serve, right? And then she said, "You can come to our house and stay." Like the hospitality, you know, right? So these are some good virtues to consider, like negotiables, right? Let me ask one question. What is a negotiable that you had, and because for you also, for the married ones,
Yeah. Now it's fun.
which you did not get from your spouse?
Get the claws out.
Anything that you thought, maybe you didn't write in your list, but you just thought.
I have a feeling that Chidana is going to know she's just perfect. She's
You're
everything
right. I
want
was
for
about to
her.
tell that.
Yeah.
She's just perfect.
Okay.
She was just an
No,
answer
I
to
cannot
my...
say.
I fell short a lot with her expectations. She had a lot of expectations. So my statement, she had a lot of expectations. I say expect without expectations is like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But you can tell.
Yeah, be frank, no.
Yeah.
No, I think what I thought of, I think being a, like I said, I was already in full-time ministry. I was very independent. Grew up in a home where, I didn't have brothers. We were 3 girls. And grew up in a city where my father, raised us to be bold, independent. And so I think for me, I just thought, okay, after marriage, we'll just be, two individuals working together. But I think that wouldn't have worked. That expectation changed. So initially when I realized, my role as a wife is different, initially it looked like, or even some of my friends, when they see me, they comment, oh wow, you mellowed down so much, or you're not as
Mellowed down.
Oh, we are seeing the mellowed version, huh? What is the other version?
I know the real version.
Oh, wow, okay.
So you can imagine how I was earlier. So when my friends look at me, they sometimes say, what have you done to her? But then, but for me, I'm very content where I am, because I'm glad that expectation, I'm glad he didn't, just say yes to everything, just to please me, because now I know I'm where God wants me to be. I'm able to see the Lord fulfilling His purposes through us as a family. I don't want us to be, 2 individuals doing things separately for the Lord, but together doing it. So I think that expectation that I had initially changed, and then I realized that was because of my wrong understanding of, what my role would be. So
Yeah.
What's the question answered?
No. Anything, Becky?
I was also thinking, I think marriage came suddenly for me.
Oh, yeah.
So it happened
Seconded.
it happened so quickly before I could process it, right? So I thought another 2-3 years and then I'll really focus on marriage. But so I came with a false understanding of what life is going to look like. And I came into his house, and within a month, all his contacts and all the students and all the kids that he was involved with just flowed in. And even when he's not there, they would just come and wait, right? And I'm like, Godly, come home. Bunch of kids at home. What am I supposed to do? And but interestingly, I'm just over the years, what I've realized is marriage is more a platform where sanctification is at its best. Lot of things that you don't realize about yourself comes out, and you can you're able to work on it and see a change, right? So for me personally, it's been I think I've changed a lot after my marriage. I think for good, and I've been encouraged through this whole process. There might have been certain expectations that I had before I knew I would come into the ministry, but I thought I would definitely, I was very sure I'll get married to someone who's not in India. But that was from 1996. I was like, I'll get out of this country someday, right? And that didn't happen. But I never thought we would ever be in USA, and then we went to study for 2.5 years. I think that was a good experience. But I wanted to come back. So
yeah,
it's
that line I was just thinking, I didn't want to leave the country at all.
Yeah.
So, and I think even one of the proposals that came before Shiju's thing came in, it was somebody who was working abroad and was probably hoping that I'll also work abroad. So that I definitely said no, because I'm not going to leave the country. So that was something that I thought was I want to be in the country. But then like Becky said, no, for a short while we had to leave the country for studies. But then again, the Lord brought us back. So I think He still kept that desire. God still fulfilled that desire.
I want to ask one question to you married couples. What is one thing you wish that you knew before marriage? Something about marriage.
Yeah, wait. You can say.
Yeah, he doesn't want me to say. No, we'll get back to that.
Yeah, get back to this.
In fact, it gives us more time to think about that also. That question that you talked about. I can, like, I think you guys are all beating around the bush, huh? Very true. Very
diplomatic.
Very diplomatic answers. For me, I thought I will get married to someone who, like, I had this imagination that my spouse will ride a bike and all. So, like, bike. But Becky's like super scared of it, like, so I threw that out of my head.
You wanted someone who's tall.
Yeah, I wanted someone who's like equally tall as me.
I prayed for someone who's tall. I got that. After that, I realized how selfish I was. I should have thought.
So now we just need a stool. If you have to hug, I tell Becky, put a stool and stand. We'll hug. So these are some non-negotiable. Negotiables. And these are things sometimes we can do away with.
And these things can change also.
Yeah.
Beauty and things like that, or a person with this particular job, a person who plays an instrument. Anything can happen, things can change.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So that's why they are on negotiables. Those are not something that you would say yes or no or break, sort of make or break.
And it's interesting how your negotiables sometimes can be shaped over the years, right? So this list, if you've made it, revisit it, right? And like they said, the beginning, pray for the spouse and pray over the list also. And as you keep praying and as you get exposed to many things and seeing different people, talking to different people, this thing will change, But quickly, we'll just answer his question.
Sorry, I was a bit too excited to ask.
You're excited.
What is one thing that you wish you knew before marriage?
One thing. That's a very good question.
I think
Googly. Answer.
I think
there's so many things.
Go ahead.
I mean, if you ask like that, we wish we had something like this, a platform where people talked about something like this, right? Because I don't think our generation had a lot of talking and premarital things happening. It was like before the wedding or before the engagement, someone comes, talks to you a couple of hours, and then that's it. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, we wanted actually premarital counseling, and we were not able to get it. We checked in different places, we were not able to get it. So the only thing that we could do is read books and read the Bible and go through passages.
That, I think Godly said in the previous podcast, I think you said this, marriage is to imperfect people. And I think, when we look for a spouse, we're looking for, all these things that we're looking for. We're expecting somebody who's perfect, and like, and then like, you also realize you're not perfect also. But then those expectations, then after marriage, you're like, I thought you were this, or I thought you were like this before marriage. You were very nice.
We generally have a very rosy picture of marriage.
Yeah.
The reality is marriage is hard work.
Yes.
Hard work. You need to put a lot of effort. Relationships.
It's not to scare.
Yes.
It is hard work.
That's any relationship. Right? The more deeper you get into any relationship, whether it be friendship, whether it be parents, whether it be siblings, whether it be marriage, it could be any relationship, even with your dog sometimes, right? Right? Your dog, you get they'll just climb on you and take advantage of you.
Exactly.
Or any relationship is. There's a book by recently I'm reading this book, Relationships, and it says relationships a mess worth making. Right? The more deeper you get into relationship, it can be a mess, but how you work it out and the beauty that comes out is I'm very happy that I'm married, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I've learned a lot of things through my marriage about myself, right? So I don't want to scare anyone, but it's hard work, right? It is not something that naturally will come. I will naturally love. That's not going to happen. So yeah.
And to add to what you were saying, one of the things that happened before my marriage was this auntie was talking to us. She made us write expectations, right? And so I think we are 5 girls, all of us are writing our expectations. Then she said, okay, now on the other side, you're right, if you can meet those expectations. I was I expect this from my spouse, but what if he has expectations that I won't be able to meet, right? So
Actually,
just coming to like put your foot on the ground and not think all like
So
this should be.
I think we'll wrap it up. I think we'll get some breakfast now.
we're not eating anything
tea
since
is
morning.
over.
We're having coffee.
Encourage everyone to make their negotiables and non-negotiables, and pray about it. Keep your mentors updated with it. Speak to an older older person in your church or someone who's trustworthy, trustable. Go with them with that list and start praying about it. I think that's a very good place to start. We started with the question like, how do I prepare for marriage, right? What do I do when there's so many options? So these are some things we talked about, and I hope that this will be helpful. And we have more, right? And we'll come back.
Yep.
And hopefully you're thinking about these things very important. And we'll come with something else also to talk about marriage. Until then, bye. See you. Today we're going to talk about parents. For example, that I've known stories where parents are looking for money or house or education. Caste almost, even though we don't follow caste system, it kind of comes somewhere, family status and all lineage.
One thing that you need to understand is you are the one who's getting married. Inputs are valuable, but the decision is finally yours. Rich, knowing that you have made the decision. It's not that your parents have pushed you into the well.
Well.